And in fact, I learned from Professor Farhadi in a discussion yesterday, if Afghanistan ever did try to exploit its potential mineral wealth, something that many people here have been involved in discussing, it could only do so through the port of Chabahar. That's what the studies show. Now, so it would be, as far as our policy in Afghanistan is concerned, it would be very much in U.S. interest that Chabahar should succeed and should open. Now, are we going to have a kind of great game between Chabahar and Belt and Road? Actually, there are people in the region working to link them. The Iranians have argued that to the Chinese, that should happen. The Iranians have argued that to the Pakistanis, to make it so that they'll be cooperative, so that this whole area, which has been economically isolated, can be built up, and ultimately, they believe, stabilized. And I know it sounds strange, but if you remember, maybe I shouldn't use the word remember, if you remember or have read about what Southeast Asia was like 40 or 50 years ago, it wasn't in much better condition than this region is today. And look at it today. So the vision that countries like China and India have is to move in that direction. And that would eventually have positive repercussions on Afghanistan, although not within the current election cycle in the United States. So the countries of the region, they're China, India, Russia, Iran, all are not sure, don't know what is the U.S. attitude toward these major economic projects on which they are counting on for their future. In fact, they're suspicious that the troops in Afghanistan might be used in some way to counter them. Of course, it's a specific problem, specifically a challenge with respect to Iran and Chabahar, because there our bilateral relations with Iran might dictate, putting sanctions on everything, including Chabahar, and telling Afghanistan to go deal with Iran, which I was once at a meeting where we did that, but don't import oil from Iran. That didn't go over too well. They simply didn't mean it. And on the other hand, our interest in stabilizing Afghanistan does require Chabahar. So, in my view, and actually Zalmay Khalilzad wrote an article about this in National Interests recently, it is possible to deal with countries whom you consider foes or even enemies in multiple ways. You deal with, on the issues in which you are opposed to them, you oppose them. But you mark out, you create space to cooperate with them, or at least not oppose them, on areas where you have common interests. We did that with Russia and Iran in 2001. We are doing that today with China. U.S.-China cooperation in Afghanistan has taken off in the last few years, despite issues in the South China Sea and trade issues and so on. And both sides have agreed to separate those things. With Russia, it's more complicated because our U.S.-Russia relations right now are so complicated and messed up. But I think that U.S. and Russia do not want their relations to descend into enmity. And certainly we've tried a number of frameworks for political settlement. I won't go through them now. And by the way, my experience, the biggest obstacle to starting a peace process in Afghanistan is not that Taliban or extremists don't want to have talks. It's that there's no agreement among all the parties about what format the talks should take. Because any format makes somebody look more important than someone else, and sends a signal. So everyone, so that has been, and then if some foreign countries are involved and others aren't, then the ones that are excluded will react. In fact, this recent Russian initiative is a reaction to a previous framework, the quadrilateral cooperation group, which was U.S., Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan, in which Russia, Iran, and India were not invited. So I think it would be worth accepting the Russian invitation to join this group and see, what it might be able to accomplish. Now, come back. What about terrorism? Well, U.S. policy and international policy, well, U.S. policy, not international policy. U.S. policy in Afghanistan has always had two different threads. You already held that up once. No time has passed?
3 minutes.
Okay. That is, the intervention was what we call counterterrorism. And then they decided about 10 days into the counterterrorism that they needed to do something with Afghanistan after they destroyed its government. And that's what I was drawn into working for the UN at that time. And from then until now, there have always been tensions between the kinetic counterterrorism operations and the stabilization operations. Kinetic operations, kill terrorists. Stabilization is ultimately to try to create an environment where they can't live. Now, I think we have to now make a choice. We can have a permanent, long-term military presence in Afghanistan and continue kinetic operations as long as the Congress is willing to pay for it and as long as the Afghan government doesn't collapse or various other unforeseen things that happen. But we cannot, if we have that, Afghanistan will never be stable because the neighbors will not let it be stable. Or we can work for stable Afghanistan, which, by the way, of course, is not a sure outcome by any means either. There are risks associated with it. But the only way we can get that, not by withdrawing troops now, but by putting our military presence on the table in the dialogue with the neighbors and ultimately with the Taliban, in order to get a consensus about the security of the region in the context of these massive economic plans, which for the first time give these countries a real incentive to overcome the challenges to security that they face.
Thank you, dear panelists. If I have the